All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm going to be reading Morals and Dogma again. As you can see, I'm in a new place, and um, well, this reading that I'm going to do is we're continuing with the apprentice, and then the next part of it you'll see I actually already recorded. So um, you'll see me here, and then the next part I'll be in the other place, and then we'll continue. I'll be here anyway. That's just the background. But what I'm reading, we'll just get right to it. And I will be going over just a little bit. Last time we left off down at the bottom of this page. I'll pick up at the top a little bit more. So says, though masonry neither usurps the place of, nor apes religion, prayer is an essential part of our ceremonies. It is the aspiration of the soul toward the absolute and infinite intelligence, which is the one supreme deity, most feebly and misunderstandingly characterized as an architect. Certain faculties of man are directed toward the unknown: thought, meditation, prayer. The unknown is an ocean, of which conscience is the compass. Thought, meditation, prayer are the great mysterious pointings of the needle. It is a spiritual magnetism that thus connects the human soul with the deity. These majestic irradiations of the soul pierce through the shadow toward the light. It is but a shallow scoff to say that prayer is absurd, because it is not possible for us, by means of it, to persuade God to change his plans. He produces foreknown and foreintended effects by the instrumentality of the forces of nature, all of which are his forces. Our own are part of these. Our free agency and our will are forces. We do not absurdly cease to make efforts to attain wealth or happiness, prolong life, and continue health, because we cannot by any effort change what is predestined. If the effort also is predestined, it is not the less our effort made of our free will. So likewise we pray. Will is a force. Thought is a force. Prayer is a force. Why should it not be the law of God that prayer, like faith and love, should have its effects? Man is not to be comprehended as a starting point, or progress as a goal, without those two great forces of faith and love. Prayer is sublime. Orisons that beg and clamor are pitiful. To deny the efficacy of prayer is to deny that of faith, love, and effort. Yet the effects produced when our hand, moved by our will, launches a pebble into the ocean never cease, and every word uttered is registered for eternity upon the invisible air. Every lodge is a temple, and as a whole, and in its details, symbolic. The universe itself supplied man with the model for the first temples reared to the deity. The arrangement of the Temple of Solomon, the symbolic ornaments which formed its chief decorations, and the dress of the high priest, all had reference to the order of the universe as then understood. The temple contained many emblems of the seasons: the sun, the moon, the planets, the constellations Ursa Major and Minor, the zodiac, the elements, and the other parts of the world. It is the master of this lodge, of the universe, Hermes, of whom Kurum is the representative, that is, one of the lights of the lodge. For further instruction as to the symbolism of the heavenly bodies, and of the sacred numbers, and of the temple and its details, you must patiently wait until you advance in masonry, in the meantime exercising your intellect and studying them for yourself. To study and seek to interpret correctly the symbols of the universe is the work of the sage and philosopher. It is to decipher the writing of God and penetrate into his thoughts. This is what is asked and answered in our catechism in regard to the lodge. A lodge is defined as an assemblage of Freemasons, duly congregated, having the sacred writings, square, and compass, and charter, or warrant or constitution, authorizing them to work. The room or place in which they meet, representing some part of King Solomon's temple, is also called the lodge, and it is that we are now considering. It is said to be supported by three great columns: wisdom, force or strength, and beauty, represented by the master, the senior warden, and the junior warden. And these are said to be the columns that support the lodge, because wisdom, strength, and beauty are the perfections of everything, and nothing can endure without them. Because, the York says, it is necessary that there should be wisdom to conceive, strength to support, and beauty to adorn, all great and important undertakings. Know ye not, says the Apostle Paul, that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man desecrate the temple of God, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. The wisdom and power of the deity are in equilibrium. The laws of nature and the moral laws are not mere despotic mandates of his omnipotent will, for then they might be changed by him, and order become disorder, and good and right become evil and wrong, honesty and loyalty vices, and fraud, ingratitude and vice virtues. Omnipotent power, infinite and existing alone, would necessarily not be constrained to consistency. Its decrees and laws could not be immutable. The laws of God are not obligatory on us because they are his enactments, because they are the enactments of his power or the expression of his will, but because they express his infinite wisdom. They are not right because they are his laws, but his laws because they are right. From the equilibrium of infinite wisdom and infinite force results perfect harmony in physics and in the moral universe. Wisdom, power, and harmony constitute one Masonic triad. They have other and profounder meanings that may at some time be unveiled to you. As to the ordinary and commonplace explanation, it may be added that the wisdom of the architect is displayed in combining as only a skillful architect can do, and as God has done everywhere, for example in the tree, the human frame, the egg, the cells of a honeycomb. Strength with grace, beauty, symmetry, proportion, lightness, ornamentation. That, too, is the perfection of the orator and poet, to combine force, strength, energy, with grace of style, musical cadences, the beauty of figures, the play and irradiation of imagination and fancy, and so, in a state, the warlike and industrial force of the people and their titanic strength must be combined with the beauty of the arts, the sciences, and the intellect, if the state would scale the heights of excellence and the people be really free. Harmony in this, as in all the divine, the material, and the human, is the result of equilibrium, of the sympathy and opposite action of contraries, a single wisdom above them holding the beam of the scales. To reconcile with moral law, human responsibility, free will, with the absolute power of God, and the existence of evil with his absolute wisdom, and goodness and mercy. These are the great enigmas of the Sphinx. You entered the lodge between two columns. They represent the two which stood in the porch of the temple, on each side of the great eastern gateway. These pillars of bronze, 4 fingers' breadth in thickness, were, according to the most authentic account, that in the first and that in the second book of Kings, confirmed in Jeremiah, 18 cubits high, with a capital 5 cubits high. The shaft of each was 4 cubits in diameter. A cubit is 1 foot and 707 1,000th inches, I guess that must be. That is, the shaft of each was a little over 30 feet 8 inches in height. The capital of each a little over 8 feet 6 inches in height, and the diameter of the shaft 6 feet 10 inches. The capitals were enriched by pomegranates of bronze, covered by bronze network, and ornamented with wreaths of bronze, and appeared to have imitated the shape of the seed vessel of the lotus or Egyptian lily, a sacred symbol to the Hindus and Egyptians. The pillar or column on the right or in the south was named as the Hebrew word is rendered in our translation of the Bible, Jachin, and that on the left, Boaz. Our translators say that the first word means he shall establish, and the second, in it, is strength. These columns were imitations, by Kurum, the Tyrian artist, of the great columns consecrated to the winds and fire, at the entrance to the temple of Malkarth, in the city of Tyre. It is customary in lodges of the York Rite to see a celestial globe on one and a terrestrial globe on the other, but these are not warranted if the object be to imitate the original 2 columns of the temple. The symbolic meaning of these columns we shall leave for the present unexplained, only adding that entered apprentices keep their working tools in the column Jachin, and giving you the etymology and literal meaning of the 2 names. The word Jachin in Hebrew is, well, I'm just gonna read over this. It is probably pronounced Yakayan and meant as a verbal noun, he that strengthens, and thence firm, stable, and upright. The word Boaz is Baz, means strong, strength, power, might, refuge, source of strength, a fort. The prefixed, I guess, Hebrew character, not sure which one this is, means with or in, and gives the word the force of the Latin gerund roborando, strengthening. I need to learn my Hebrew. It's the one that's just a simple, like that. It says the former word also means he will establish or plant an erect position. From the verb kun, he stood erect. It probably meant active and vivifying energy and force, and Boaz, stability, permanence in the passive tense. The dimensions of the lodge, our brethren of the York Rite say, are unlimited, and its covering no less than the canopy of heaven. To this object, they say, the mason's mind is continually directed, and thither he hopes at last to arrive by the aid of the theological ladder which Jacob in his vision saw ascending from earth to heaven. the three principal rounds of which are denominated faith, hope, and charity, and which admonish us to have faith in God, hope in immortality, and charity to all mankind. Accordingly, a ladder, sometimes with 9 rounds, is seen on the chart, resting at the bottom on the earth, its top in the clouds, the stars shining above it, and this is deemed to represent that mystic ladder, which Jacob saw in his dream, set up on the earth, and the top of it reaching to heaven, with the angels of God ascending and descending on it. The addition of the 3 principal rounds to the symbolism is wholly modern and incongruous. The ancients counted 7 planets thus arranged: the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. There were 7 heavens and 7 spheres of these planets. On all the monuments of Mithras are 7 altars or pyres, consecrated to the 7 planets, as were the 7 lamps of the golden candelabrum in the temple. That these represented the planets, we are assured by Clemens of Alexandria in his Stromata, and by Philo Judaeus. To return to its source in the infinite, the human soul, the ancients held, had to ascend, as it had descended, through the 7 spheres. The ladder by which it reascends has, according to Marsilius Ficinus, in his commentary on the Ennead of Plotinus, 7 degrees or steps, and in the Mysteries of Mithras, carried to Rome under the emperors. The ladder, with its 7 rounds, was a symbol referring to this ascent through the spheres of the 7 planets. Jacob saw the spirits of God ascending and descending on it, and above it the deity himself. The Mithraic mysteries were celebrated in caves, where gates were marked at the 4 equinoctial and solstitial points of the zodiac, and the 7 planetary spheres were represented, which souls need must traverse in descending from the heaven of the fixed stars to the elements that envelop the earth, and the 7 gates were marked, one for each planet, through which they pass in descending or returning. We learn this from Celsus in Origen, who says that the symbolic image of this passage among the stars, used in the Mithraic mysteries, was a ladder reaching from earth to heaven, divided into 7 steps or stages, to each of which was a gate, and at the summit an 8th one, that of the fixed stars. The symbol was the same as that of the 7 sages of Borsippa, the pyramid of vitrified brick near Babylon, built of 7 stages, and each of a different color. In the Mithraic ceremonies, the candidate went through 7 stages of initiation, passing through many fearful trials, and of these the high ladder, with 7 rounds, or steps, was the symbol. You see the lodge, its details and ornaments, by its lights. You have already heard what these lights, the greater and the lesser, are said to be, and how they are spoken of by our brethren of the York Rite. The Holy Bible, the square and compass, are not only styled in the great lights of masonry, but they are also technically called the furniture of the lodge, and as you have seen, it is held that there is no lodge without them. This has sometimes been made a pretext for excluding Jews from our lodges, because they cannot regard the New Testament as a holy book. The Bible is an indispensable part of the furniture of a Christian lodge, only because it is a sacred part of the Christian religion. The Hebrew Pentateuch in a Hebrew lodge, and the Quran in a Mohammedan one, belong on the altar, and one of these, and the square and compass, properly understood, are the great lights by which a mason must walk and work. The obligation of the candidate is always to be taken on the sacred book or books of his religion. that he may deem it more solemn and binding. And therefore it was that you were asked of what religion you were. We have no other concern with your religious creed. The square is a right angle formed by two right lines. It is adapted only to a plane surface and belongs only to geometry, earth measurement, that is trigonometry, which deals only with planes, and with the earth, which the ancients supposed to be a plane. The compass describes circles and deals with spherical trigonometry, the science of the spheres and heavens. The former, therefore, is an emblem of what concerns the earth and the body, the latter of what concerns the heavens and the soul. Yet the compass is also used in plane trigonometry, as in erecting perpendiculars, and therefore you are reminded that, although in this degree both points of the compass are under the square, and you are now dealing only with the moral and political meaning of the symbols, and not with their philosophical and spiritual meanings. Still, the divine ever mingles with the human. With the earthly and spiritual intermixes, there is nothing spiritual in the commonest duties of life. The nations are not bodies politic alone, but also souls politic, and woe to that people which, seeking the material only, forgets that it has a soul. Then we have a race, petrified in dogma, which presupposes the absence of a soul, and the presence only of memory and instinct, or demoralized by lucre. Such a nature can never lead civilization. Genuflection before the idol or the dollar atrophies the muscle which walks and the will which moves. Hieratic or mercantile absorption diminishes the radiance of a people, lowers its horizon by lowering its level, and deprives it of that understanding of the universal aim, at the same time human and divine, which makes the missionary nations. A free people, forgetting that it has a soul to be cared for, devotes all its energies to its material advancement. If it makes war, it is to subserve its commercial interests. The citizens copy after the state, and regard wealth, pomp, and luxury as the great goods of life. Such a nation creates wealth rapidly and distributes it badly. Thence the two extremes of monstrous opulence and of monstrous misery. All the enjoyment to a few, all the privations to the rest, that is to say, to the people. Privilege, exemption, monopoly, feudality, springing up from labor itself, a false and dangerous situation, which, making labor a blinded and chained cyclops in the mine, at the forge, in the workshop, at the loom, in the field, over poisonous fumes, in miasmatic cells, in unventilated factories, founds public power upon private misery, implants the greatness of the state in the suffering of the individual. It is a greatness ill constituted, in which all the material elements are combined, and into which no moral element enters. If a people, like a star, has the right of eclipse, the light ought to return. The eclipse should not degenerate into night. The three lesser, or the sublime lights you have heard, are the sun, the moon, and the master of the lodge. And you have heard what our brethren of the York Rite say in regard to them, and why they hold them to be the lights of the lodge. But the sun and moon do in no sense light the lodge, unless it be symbolically, and then the lights are not they, but those things of which they are the symbols. Of what they are the symbols, the mason in that rite is not told, nor does the moon in any sense rule the night with regularity. The sun is the ancient symbol of the life-giving and generative power of the deity. To the ancients, light was the cause of life. and God was the source from which all light flowed. The essence of light, the invisible fire, developed as flame manifested as light and splendor. The sun was his manifestation and visible image, and the Sabians worshipping the light, God, seemed to worship the sun, in whom they saw the manifestation of the deity. The moon was the symbol of a passive capacity of nature to produce, the female of which the life-giving power and energy was the male. It was the symbol of Isis, Astarte, Artemis, or Diana. The master of life was the supreme deity, above both, and manifested through both. Zeus, the son of Saturn, become king of gods. Horus, son of Osiris and Isis, become the master of life. Dionysus, or Brachus, like Mithras, become the author of light and life and truth. So that is it for this segment. And the rest of that is already recorded. So as soon as these are able to be up online, they'll be up online, and then you'll see it. So I guess we will end it there. Thank you. We'll have more of these.